All right, so welcome. We are talking about becoming an intentional engineer and creating a purpose-driven life and career. There's a lot to that, right? And so I really hope that as we go through today, that some of the things and the concepts we talk about can be helpful and transformational for you. We're going to do some things to stay engaged in the chat throughout our time today, and look forward to hearing more from you. But if you're available, if you're able, I'd love to see your smiling faces and share your screen, share your video, so that I can see your real human behind here. What we're going to do a number of times today, I'm going to ask you to be quite reflective during our session today. It's not just going to be me talking at you. I do encourage you to take some notes, but also get out something you can write with, so that you can do some reflections on a number of questions I'm going to ask. Now, some of them are just going to be us sort of engaging together. And so I do something I call quick chat in some of these sessions, where I ask a question and I want you to type your answer into the chat box and use that, but don't actually press enter to submit it until I do a quick countdown. And then we get to watch all the answers come in all at the same time So I know some of you already shared this, but go ahead and share it again, briefly. Where are you joining us from? Where in the world are you joining us from? I know we have people from various places around the world I've already seen so far, and here in the United States. I'm here in a town called Pullman, Washington, in Washington State, not near Washington, D.C., other side of the country. But where are you joining us from? Type it in the chat and then press enter in 3, 2, 1, go. Someone said they were in Salt Lake City. We had Maryland. Someone said they were American joining from Sweden. But where else are you from? I think we've got someone here from South Africa, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there we are. So Washington, not DC. So we got another Washingtonian. Glad to have you, Kieran, if I'm saying that right. So glad to have you. And so it's just kind of a fun thing that we'll do throughout our session today as well. If anyone hasn't met me or doesn't know much about me, Jeff Perry, leadership and career development expert. About 3 months ago, my first book, The Intentional Engineer, came out, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. I have a background in mechanical, software development, engineering, manufacturing, process improvement, engineering, leadership. I'm the father of 4 beautiful kids. We like getting outside, hiking. I do a lot of reading. If you ever want book recommendations, want to talk books, I'm always up for that. And I like playing pickleball. It's sort of a fun sport I picked up in the last few years. But really what I'm all about is helping people kind of unlock their potential and create change in their lives and their careers. And so doing this and sharing some of the things we're going to talk about today is just a part of that. And so if we're talking about becoming intentional, I want to share my intentions for our session today. We're going to focus on 3 things. Primarily, we're going to focus on what it means to be intentional, what that's all about. We're going to talk about the power of mindsets and their power to drive our actions and behavior and our results. And we're going to talk about how to get clarity, unlock some of the opportunities for us here. So those are my intentions. My invitations for you are to be present, be open, and take action. Don't just listen to the things we're going to talk about. Identify some things that you can do and take action on from what we talk about. And like I invited you earlier, also get out something to take notes. And I'm going to have some questions and some activities we're going to go through today to be reflective on where you're at and some of the maybe actions or ideas that come up for you, and some things that you can do some of the work to unlock some of these intentions and unlock some of the clarity that maybe you're looking to get here. So this is going to be pretty interactive, and you're going to be doing some work during our session today. Okay. So another one of these quick chats, reminder, don't press enter to submit it until we do a 3, 2, 1 chat countdown. But I shared my intention. I want to know what your intention here for this session is. So if you can take just a few minutes, I'll give you about 20, 30 seconds to type that into the chat. Really set your intention for what you're hoping to get out of this session, so that helps me understand that, and maybe we can tailor some of the things that we talk about today, as well as helps you get clear on that, so that you can make the most of this time that you're dedicating to yourself to learn and grow. Okay, while you do that, I'm going to take a drink. All right, finish that up, typing it in, and then we'll press enter in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so we got some people, different ideas. Learn more about how to be more intentional as an engineer and in life generally. Think seriously about my career and where it's headed and the kind of places I want to work. That's excellent. Get ideas to take the career to the next level and learn how to be more proactive and intentional versus reactive. I love that. I love that idea. So all these things are things that absolutely, there's things we're going to talk about that are related to this, and anything else that you still want to share, please feel free to do that. So so hold that intention in mind as we continue forward here. Now, I want to start with a model here. This model is actually in chapter 1 of the book. So if you don't have the book, you can go make sure to grab that. And there's going to be some other things about that later in the session that we'll talk about. But this is, I call this the intentional engineer model. Got real creative with that. But you look at like, hey, where are you in your career right now? And you see these different levels. It's a different way to look at levels in terms of climbing a ladder than we would typically think about climbing a career ladder, right? But looking at some of the different stages or situations, sometimes we'll go up or down depending on how life's twists and turns will take us. So those who might feel unemployed right now might be feeling overlooked. They're not able to earn income right now, and that can not feel very good. Plenty of people I talk to are in kind of that second level, feeling like they're surviving. They're in a job, but it's something that just feels obligatory, definitely not thriving, not doing some of their best work, maybe underpaid right now. So just really unsatisfied. Probably the majority of people that I end up talking to are in this third level. They're in a job that's gone well for the most part so far. They've been pretty opportunistic, and things have just sort of lined up for them. Maybe they had connections that put them into certain career opportunities, but they've gotten to a point that they're paid okay, but they're feeling disengaged, and they're wondering like, hey, is this really all this is about? How can I maybe shift my career trajectory a little bit more? And so you see the dividing line between levels 3 and 4 is where we really get to be intentional, right? The intentionality is how we really turn the corner. And when we're intentional, we're experiencing purposeful growth personally. And then that can also lead us to having growth and impact beyond us, and that top level being impactful and kind of digging into our life's work eventually. But intentionality is what drives us through to that, right? So I just want you to reflect on this for a moment and consider where are you at in your career. And so I'll show you that model in just a moment again, but you can put just a number 1 through 5. Like, where do you find yourself in your career right now? Level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just to give me an idea and give you an idea. Be like, okay, how do I move up from here? So look at this again. Just type that into the chat. Won't take too long. Just put the number and then press enter in 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, number of 3s, few 1s, 23.5. Well, that's impressive. 3.5. Okay, so sort of in between there, and that's great. So no matter where you're at, there's opportunity here. For those who are 1s, obviously we got to get you employed and making some progress professionally, and get the ball moving. For a number of you who are 3 or 3.5s, you're really asking yourself that question, like, hey, I may be in a good place, but maybe there's some changes I need to make to really be more intentional and get into that more purposeful growth mode. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. When we think about the word intention, though, one of the ways we can think about it is identifying what's really most important to you and letting that act as a guide. So some of the ways that this can manifest itself, or some of the forms this can take, is when we're intentional, we have meaningful goals, we have purposes beyond just what we care about and the what we're doing, like kind of a a deeper why and purpose behind what we're doing, that's bigger than just who we are, right? So that's maybe getting to that idea of impact towards others. We identify and live by core values. I talk about that in the book, how you can identify those. We might have a mission or a vision statement. And being intentional is not just about what we want to do, but who we're trying to become over the course of our life and our career, the person that we want to grow, the skills that we care about, the impact we want to have on people, how we want others to remember us, right? And the character that we want to build over time. And so it's not just what we want to do, it's who we're trying to become as we're living with intention. I love this quote by a mentor of mine, Richie Norton, and I quote this at the very beginning of the book. It says, "Intentional living is the art of making our own choices before others' choices make us," right? If we aren't intentional about choosing who we're trying to become, then the world and its influence and our bosses and our careers and the opportunities that are just placed in front of us are going to shape us instead of us deciding to shape who we're trying to become. Right. And it's really easy to fall into that trap and just say, hey, I'll just sort of take whatever comes my way. I don't know what way I want to go, so I'll just try something out. Right. And what we can find is it sort of feels like we're Alice who's lost in Wonderland, if you're familiar with this story. Alice in Wonderland, a classic Disney movie and a book by Lewis Carroll. But at one point in the story, Alice is lost in this dark forest and she comes across this kind of cunning character, the Cheshire Cat, and asks him some questions. She says, hey, would you help me know which way to go from here? And the cat, while not really trying to be that helpful, also shares some truth. Hey, that depends a good deal on where you want to get to. And she says, I don't much care where. Then the cat says, then it doesn't matter which way you go, right? So, and Alice says, so long as I get somewhere. And the cat says, so, okay, you're sure to do that if you only walk long enough. So you'll get somewhere, but is it where you want to go? And if you don't know where you want to go, then it's hard to chart that path and decide which path to go. Whereas if we can, and so having those intentions about who we're trying to become and where we're trying to go can help us then make the right decisions, chart the paths as a guide for how we want to be. Now, when it comes to our lives and our careers, a couple different ways we can look at this, a couple metaphors. So one is sort of a guiding light that, you can be really rigid and think like it's the North Star, like the North Star never changes. Our intentions are going to change a little bit as we kind of revise them over time. But this guiding light that we can keep saying, hey, are the actions we're taking pointing us toward who we want to become and where we want to go? Another way to look at it is filters. As we make decisions and we're considering different possibilities and opportunities, right? We can use our intentions as filters to filter things out that aren't going to be helpful or aren't going to be aligned with our intentions, and therefore don't need to spend any time considering them and can stay focused on the things that are more important. Now, as I mentioned, like things are going to change and progress and go through iterations. So we want to also take an engineer's approach to this to say, hey, the different stages we go through in our life and our career, sort of we can think about like some of the things we design as engineers, right? So this is a picture of like some prototypes, maybe 3D printed. We're trying to spin up prototypes and test things out, try things out to collect data about who we are, what we like, what we don't like, and where we do some of our best work in our careers, and also where we find the most fulfillment in our life. And so you don't need to think that if you make one decision, you're going to be bound by that for the whole rest of your life. That's fine. Like we're just we can reduce the stress around that and say, hey, this is a prototype. This is an experiment we're running, and we can see how this works. Kind of looks like this as we're iterating through our careers. We have a hypothesis, something we want to try. We run the experiment. Maybe that can take the place in getting a whole new job opportunity. Maybe that can take the place of a volunteer thing or a side thing, or maybe a smaller responsibility inside of your current workplace, or whatever that is. Maybe you take a class to learn something new and say, hey, would I want to pursue that a little bit more? Whatever that kind of experiment would look like. Then we analyze, collect the data. How does that look? And then we can run another experiment. And so I just want you to be thinking about the way that these intentions can drive us, but also can iterate through the course of our lives as we're trying to go through the process of designing a life and career of satisfaction and purpose and impact, right? So this is just an example of one person I worked with a while back, who we worked pretty intensely. They talked about like it was one of the best decisions he ever made. And so certainly if you're trying to find that direction support with your goals, I'd love to do that work. And so this is Wes, and he was able to move from a place where he was just completely unsure of what was next for him after having a pretty solid career at Amazon for a while, but got burned out and also wanted to move his family to a different part of the country. And so a lot of different things were changing, but man, he went after it and made some big changes, and it was really fun to see that. So and it was fun to support him through that. So I'm curious for you, we talked about sort of this guiding light and filters as ideas around intention. What commitment for you serves as a guiding light or a filter, something that you recognize is important to you in an intention that can help guide your way? So are there particular intentions that you've already identified that you can use to guide you or be filters as things that you definitely don't want and can eliminate? Think about that for about 15-20 seconds. You ponder about that. Certainly write them in your own notes. Type it into the chat here, and we'll do a countdown and share those in just a moment. All right. Let's go ahead and submit those in 3, 2, 1, go. Maybe people are more reticent to share some of these things. This might be a harder question, right? And it probably is. Think about, and so maybe just a few ideas for you, guiding light around, you can think about external things like, hey, a certain amount of money you want to make, but or a place that you want to live, or some of those things, or skills that you want to develop, things you want to try. I recognized early on in my career that being in a role that was sort of isolating, where for a while I was just writing code as a software engineer for a while, and I wasn't really collaborative, that was really hard for me. And so really talking and connecting with people and working through some of those things was really important to me, my career, so I could act as that as a filter for some of the additional opportunities and decisions that I chose later on in life. So, I'd love to have you share some of those if you're willing to. Now, some of the challenges as we go through different decisions and stages in our life and careers, we deal with a number of things. One of those is uncertainty, right? Especially for those who are in that level 3 in that model we talked about, where you're opportunistic and but maybe you're a little bit disengaged and you're trying to figure out, hey, what's my intention? Well, moving on to something different or considering making a shift, there's a lot of uncertainty there. And so I love this quote. It's very powerful to kind of consider, okay, is this really where I want to stay stuck? By a psychologist by the name of Virginia Satir, says most people prefer the certainty of misery to the misery of uncertainty, where sometimes we would rather stick around in doing the same thing we've done just because we know it and it's familiar and feels kind of comfortable, even if we're unhappy and unsatisfied and, in this case, miserable, right? So that's just sort of a challenge for you if you ever come to a situation like that, where that feels weird to make a change. I'm not sure what's on the other side. Yeah, you don't. There's no way to know exactly how something's going to turn out if you make some sort of change. But you do know that if you keep doing the same thing you're going to be doing, you're going to be miserable. So why not try and make a change, right? Another thing that comes in, I love some of the work by Steven Pressfield. He's an author who wrote the book The War of Art, and this quote is from there as well. And he talks about this concept called resistance, which is basically anything that it's this internal resistance, external resistance that comes as we're trying to make any change that's worthwhile. And so he says this, he says, remember our rule of thumb. The more scared we are of a work or calling, the more sure we can be that we have to do it. Resistance is experienced as fear. The degree of fear, for fear is higher, equates to the strength of resistance. Therefore, the more fear we feel about a specific enterprise, the more certain we can be that that enterprise is important to us and to the growth of our soul. That's why we feel so much resistance. If it meant nothing to us, there'd be no resistance. Okay. So those things that feel really difficult to make those decisions, that means it's very important. And we need to find ways to identify what that resistance is and push through it and make decisions and take action anyway, because it's so important. So I'm curious for you, this is again, maybe a little bit more of an introspective question. I'd love for you to share with us in the chat, if you're willing, what are any of those fears that you're facing right now? What do you see as your primary resistance? Is it your fear of the market conditions as we're seeing layoffs and things? Is it your fear of like, oh, I don't have any experience yet? Is it, I want to try this, but I don't know how to even make that jump or where to start, right? Like, what is it that you're afraid of? What is that resistance that might be holding you back and staying stuck where you're at right now? So take another 10, 15 seconds, type that out into our chat. And we'll go 3, 2, 1, go. We've already got some coming in. So some people talking about not having enough experience yet, want to go to grad school, financial instability, that can be fearful. Recent merger at work with significant changes in leadership and a way of working. Totally get that. Been through a number of those. No experience whatsoever. Also sitting in a computer all day and no interacting with any machinists. Okay, if that's something you want to do. So yeah. So we have to find ways to gain experience. We have to find ways to navigate through some of the changes that might externally be happening, and we're not sure where our place in that is. Someone was talking about like an organizational shift. Or merger, going to grad school, do you have to do that? Or is that a challenge? Or even how do we get into grad school if that's something you want to do? All those different things, we need to find that way through, because otherwise that fear, that resistance can only hold us back. We neglect to take any action that can push us through that and help us take action. We just sit in the fear in a way that is unhelpful, right? So one of the ways, so we've talked about some of these ideas of intention, some of the challenges, the uncertainty and the fear, the resistance there. We're now going to shift over to the power of our mindsets to help us drive through some of this. Okay. So I want to characterize, if you're unfamiliar with some of the concepts around mindsets, there's a few different ways we can look at them. Established set of attitudes that we hold, like how we view people, challenges in our environment. And also mindsets, we can sometimes call them beliefs that orient the way that we handle different situations or circumstances that come at us. So how we sort of sort out what's going on and then drives our actions, behaviors about what we do about that, right? So to think about how this works, there's this little model that I'm showing here that our mindsets drive then our actions and behaviors that we take, and our actions and behaviors drive the results that we get in our lives, right? So that's pretty basic idea. Now, all throughout our lives, we're going to come to situations where we want to change something. Hey, this is where I'm at now. This is the current results and situation that I'm in today. And I now have a new goal. That's this new target that we're trying to reach, these new desired results. And in most cases, what people do when they're trying to make a change in the results they're having is they just say, hey, what are the things I need to do differently? What are the action and behaviors that I need to do that are going to result in this new goal or achievement that I'm looking for, right? And it's not all bad, but it's incomplete because, as you see, what we've done is we've actually left our mindsets back to where they always have. We haven't shifted our way of thinking as well as our actions and behaviors. So the actions and behaviors won't be very sustainable over time and not as impactful, right? And eventually, in most cases, our mindsets then pull those action behaviors back to where they used to be. And so if instead we can, in addition to shifting our actions and behaviors, but also first shift our mindset, our way of thinking about that, and let that drive then our actions and behaviors in a more effective way, then we're much more likely to reach those desired results. So a couple different ways, again, to think about mindsets. It's like almost like an operating system, right? And so if you have a bug in the system, though, then even if you get good input, you might get bad output because you're going to interpret something in an unhelpful way. I also like to think about it as lenses, whether you wear glasses or contacts or other corrective lenses or anything. Okay, if you have a scratched lens or the wrong prescription, you're going to see a distorted view of the world and of life. And if we don't see reality, if we don't see things clearly, if we don't have the right prescription, we're not going to see the truth about what's in front of us, right? So our mindsets do this. Now, the challenge here, sort of like where we were saying, hey, we're trying to make a change, but we might, neglect working on our mindsets. It's almost like we're driving a car and we say, hey, here's the change I want to make. I'm going to do all these things differently. That's putting our foot on the gas pedal. But our mindsets are like, no, this isn't how we normally do things. We need to keep things the way they've always been. Okay. So our mindsets are like putting our foot on the brake at the same time. So we got our foot on the gas and our foot on the brake at the same time, which means that we're not actually going anywhere. We're just using extra gas or energy if you've got an electric car. Right. So this is not helpful. But if we can uncover those mindsets that are actually holding us back, shift our mindsets in a more effective way, we can then make the breakthroughs in our behavior and really get moving, release our foot off the brake pedal and put the pedal to the metal in terms of life progress, right? So here's just another example of someone I worked with. He's Kent, he's a software architect and also an entrepreneur. Talked about the major mindset breakthroughs that he made. He was finding we were able to get down to the root cause of these mindset blocks, so we could unlearn that and get that forward momentum. Because previously he was doing some things that were kind of self-sabotaging some of his opportunities, and so he talked about it being so worth it doing this work. And so I want to give you an opportunity to start thinking about what's maybe that change you would like to make, but also what might be some of the mindsets or things that might be holding you back as well. So it's an activity. I go through it in more detail inside the book in chapters 3 and 4, but I want you to start now in thinking about this. So take out your journal or a piece of paper or whatever. We're going to take 60 to 90 seconds, somewhere in there. And I want you to brainstorm 3 to 5 ideas for big changes that you could make personally or professionally. And then just brainstorm ideas. There's no perfect answer, but then ask like, hey, so look at this list. Which would make the biggest impact if I were to actually make that change, right? And then bonus, we want to look at maybe get started on like what's really underneath there. Are there hidden commitments or things or beliefs or mindsets that might be keeping you from making this change? What's putting your foot on the brake? Some of those internal resistances or fears or mindsets or beliefs that you're having right now. Okay. And again, if you've got the book, we're interested of chapters 3 and 4 in the book and the related intentional engineer workbook go into this in a lot more detail, but I just wanted to get you started here. So I'm going to give you a little over a minute to go through this and be quiet and consider what's that big change, and can you identify some of the things that might be holding you back from making that change for a moment. All right, about 10 or 15 more seconds. Okay, good. I hope that was helpful for you to get in some of that quiet reflection time that often we don't give ourselves. And so, love to just hear from you if anyone is willing to share. Is there one particular big change that you identified out of that list? Is there one thing that stood out to you, like, this is what I really want to work on that could really unlock some opportunity and potential in me? So, give you just a few more seconds to type that out into the chat. And we'll go 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, and again, the whole point of this is why we want to identify that big change, but then we're identifying, hey, our mindset is what's really underneath that. Instead of just saying, I want to change these things, trying to do some of that work to look at what's underneath and our ability to make these change. But it is good to say, hey, if I can identify the change, then I can get to the root cause of what I need to change to make that happen. So if anyone wants to share there, please just share there in the chat. Is there a big change that you identified that you want to make in your life and career? Okay. Someone's talking about obtaining the software to get started. Yeah, that's good. And anything else, feel free to put that in. Okay. So we've talked about what it means to be intentional and some of the challenges there. We've talked about the power of mindset to drive our actions and behaviors and the changes and shift our results here. Now we're going to shift towards getting career clarity. And also inside of this, we're going to talk about some related concepts around identifying your genius zone, okay? Or genius zones. It could be plural as well. Now, just the idea of getting clarity is important. We want to know, kind of like we were talking with Alice, like, hey, where do we want to go? Otherwise, if we don't know, then it's hard to chart our path and make decisions, right? Because there are so many roads and options we could take, especially engineers are so versatile in the types of things that they can do, the ways they can solve problems, the types of technologies and industries they can work on. It's so vast, but we need to find ways to focus on the direction that we feel like is right for us. At least at the time, not to say that we can't change. Again, we can go through those career iterations as well. But sometimes we can get overly fixated on how hard it is to make those decisions because we're so versatile that we can fill a lot of different types of roles and responsibilities. And then we get stuck in analysis paralysis. And we're trying to figure out what we want to do and spending too much time on that, but not actually taking action and doing anything. Okay. But getting clarity doesn't need to be quite as hard as we make it out to be. And there's some tools that we can use, and in particular today, just some of the things I'm going to talk about are related to concept of genius zones. Okay, so genius zones come from, well, they're very related to the concept of flow. If anyone is familiar with that, flow comes from a researcher by the name of Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who passed away a couple of years ago or so. But the idea of flow is this state that we can get in that's really quite empowering, where we almost lose track of time. And this diagram shows us, if we can get in this flow channel, it's this balance of the level of challenge that we're facing and the level of skills we have to meet that challenge. If our skills are too high and the challenge is too low, we're going to be bored. If the challenge is too high and our skills are too low, we're going to be fearful and anxious, right? But when we have that balance between our skills and the challenge that we're facing, we're in this flow channel, and it can be quite empowering. So we want to find ways as much as possible to be in flow. And so if you're bored, we need to find increased challenges. If you're anxious and fearful, we need to find ways to improve your level of skills. Now, this is one way to look at it, but also you can just sort of reflect on what are those situations or things that you do and the ways that you do them and the environments you found yourself in over the course of your life thus far, where you found yourself in this really empowering state of flow that's been fun, you're engaged, you're doing some of your best work, you just feel like you're in the zone, the way that some people describe it. Things just sort of slow down for you, and it's really a fun place to be. What are you doing in that state? You can do some reflection on that, because the more that we can understand that, the more that we can say, hey, ideally, I would love to be put in situations where I can be more similar to that, which is going to bring you greater satisfaction and help you do some of your best work. Okay. Another way to look at genius zones and is looking at these different combinations of who we are and our innate traits that we might have, our skills and experiences, or our skills that we've built over time, and the experiences that we've had. So this is an example for me, and one of the combinations that allows me to do some of the work that I do. I have a broad set of engineering experiences. I've built skills in coaching, facilitation, training. And even from an earlier age, I perhaps was a little bit higher on the realm of emotional intelligence, in understanding and talking with others. I was kind of one of those people that friends would just kind of come and ask me for things. I've had to continue to build that over time, especially with regards to my own emotions. More stories we could talk about there, but this combination of things allows me to work in my genius zone in doing some of the work and leadership and career development for engineers, because I can really relate to the engineers. I love doing this one-on-one, but also group facilitation work, and I need to be really in tune with the people that I'm working with and doing this work. And I also just really love and enjoy it, and kind of lose track of time, and is very engaging for me. So a few other ways you might consider finding clarity, some activities you can do. I'm a big proponent of using journals. The Intentional Engineer Workbook could be helpful. There's a lot of great questions and exercises and reflection and space to write about some of these things. If you wanted to get into that, that's free with the purchase of the book, the digital version there. I'm a fan of prayer or meditation, just some sort of practice that feels like you're connecting with something bigger than yourself. If you believe in a concept of a higher power, that's great. Or even just like connecting with the earth and other people in the world, and just being able to breathe through your thoughts and let go and see what insights come if we slow things down and reduce some of the stimuli that we have going on us all the time, right? We can also get insights as we ask other people. Sometimes people that we work with, or our family and friends, those who know us well, they can see things and recognize things inside of us that we don't always recognize ourselves. So by asking others what they see in us, hey, what am I best suited to do? What do you see as some of my strengths? Where do you see me doing things uniquely different than other people? And all sorts of other questions you can ask. They can perhaps see things and provide insights that you might not see for yourself. And that can be quite helpful to gain clarity around, oh yeah, I didn't recognize that, but now that you say that, that's totally true. And I want to do more of that if possible, right? So here's just an example of another person I worked with. Her name's Anne. She's a PhD level engineer. So she already had a ton of experience and obviously education. But 3 years after her PhD, she was already lacking direction, still didn't know what she wanted to be when she grew up, is the way that she described it, which was kind of fun. But I mentored her through this process of getting clarity into her goals. We had to work on some imposter syndrome stuff, so that's some of the mindset stuff, identifying what really mattered to her. And we were able to help her go through the process of landing a new opportunity that was in alignment with her skills and her passions and her genius zones. And she's really thriving. I talked to her not too long ago, and she's gotten multiple promotions and a number of other things. She's just doing amazing. And so, I mean, that's the sort of stuff that's possible here. Okay. So I want to do another activity for you on the career clarity side. So we're going to do another 60 to 90 seconds. And these are a few kind of pondering questions that you can do now, right? to consider some of these things. What's most important to me in my career? What might be a genius zone of mine? How do I want my career to support my life? And who do I want to become? We talked about that early. Like, this is a process of becoming. I'm going to give you a little bit of time. And again, there are more activities like this and reflection questions in the workbook. In chapters 5 and 6 primarily talk about career clarity and genius zones. But I'm going to give you a little bit of time to work on some of that now. All right, about 10 more seconds. Very good. I hope that having some of that time to reflect and write some things down, obviously, probably not enough time to finish these exercises, but just getting you started, getting a little momentum there. And maybe, like we talked about, you can have some other conversations with other people, or maybe you only answered one question and you want to answer the others. It's totally fine. Just want to get you started, getting some progress and taking some action and getting some of these insights here. Okay. So we discussed a lot thus far. We talked about the power of intention. How do we define our intentions and what they can do? We talked about the power of mindsets, how we can, some of the ways we can shift them, our mindsets and beliefs, and uncover maybe what's putting our foot on the brake right now as we're trying to make some big changes. We've identified the power of clarity and our genius zones and how those relate and how to identify what's really most important to us. So we talked about a number of different things, and those were my intentions, as I stated early on, and I hope you feel like I met my intentions. And also curious, do you feel like you met your intentions, what you set out that you wanted to learn here as we got started? Obviously, limited time, we maybe can't give you all the answers you're looking for in just this short time, but I really tried to give you as much as I could during the time that we had. Now, are you all good from here? Well, maybe yes and no to a degree. You're familiar with who Warren Buffett is, one of the most wealthy people on the planet. He could explain the concept of investing in just one sentence. We want to buy low, sell high, and only invest in things that we understand. But it's the details of how he does that really makes all the difference and allows him to do that, because it's people who succeed are the ones that are committed to finding the answers, even when things aren't looking great. Maybe we need to invest in ourselves to do that. So there are probably still a lot of things you have to figure out, like what direction are you going to take your career? How do you set your intentions? How do you shift your mindsets more fully? How do you get more clarity? Where can you find the mentoring and support that you need, and everything else that perhaps you don't know that you don't know? Now, you can figure this out for yourself, or I would love to help you. And so I'm going to be talking for just a few minutes about something that I've never done before, because my book is still pretty new. And so I'm actually I'm running right now, and you're the first people to hear about this. I haven't shared this with anyone else, with an opportunity to work with me more directly to those who really want to be more intentional. And I'm calling it Big Bonuses for Bulk Book Buys. So a lot of alliteration there, because trying to get the book out and the message of the book out to more people. So the more books you purchase, the more bonuses you get. So here's some opportunities here. I mean, for everyone who buys one book, you get access to the free digital workbooks. That's just normal. But if you buy 3 books, these are some bonuses you can get. I've got a personal development video playlist that I'll share with you. You get access to my career clarity checklist and the ultimate LinkedIn profile guide. And again, like everyone who buys the book, you get the Intentional Engineer workbook, and you get access to that. Okay, so this is a value about $297. If you buy 10 books, you'll get these bonuses. You get access to an online program we've got called the Engineering Career Accelerator Resume and LinkedIn Jumpstart course. Okay, you get access to a free resource, or a resource I've got called Accelerate Your Leadership. It's a 90-day plan for people who are new leaders. You get another resource called 48 Amazing Questions Ask Your Mentor, especially if you're trying to build a mentoring relationship, and everything from the levels below this one. And that's a value of like $797. Okay, and recognize the books are only about $15 US dollars, and so pretty fabulous value. Plus, you still get the books, right? But for those who buy 25 books, and this is where it gets really fun, I'm creating a new Intentional Engineer online program that's going to start in February. I'll give you more information on that in a moment. For people who buy 25 or more, you'll get access to that. And this will be a live program that you'll be doing with me. I'll send you, for those in the United States, one signed book that I will ship to you. So you get a personally signed book from me. You get a worksheet around mission, vision, and values, and everything else in the bonuses below this one as well. For those who really want lots of books, and this is about $3,500 of value with what we're going to be doing there. If you buy 50 books, you're going to get these bonuses. You get extra personalized one-on-one coaching time with me. I'll send you 3 signed books for those who are in the United States. I'll give you access to my Engineering Career Accelerator full online course, which usually people have to pay thousands of dollars to get access to this, and everything from all the levels below this one. Okay, this is like $6,000 value. So there's a lot of opportunities here, and this is probably the most affordable way right now to work with me directly. So you might be asking, okay, if I'm going to buy all these books, whatever, but what do I do with all these books? Well, you can be a hero and give them away to your team, your clients, co-workers, HR leadership team, professional associations, other university students at a local university, any friends, or anyone else you think would benefit from being more intentional. Like, this is a great gift to give. We don't give a lot of gifts in January, February, unless someone has a birthday. Most of that gift giving comes around the Christmas holidays or whatever. So this is a cool thing to stand out and give some people more gifts, right? And I just want to explain what are we going to be doing in that online program. It's going to be live, and it might be, again, this is for those who buy 25 or more books. We're going to do 5 weeks of live coaching and training. That'll be Tuesdays, starting on February 13th. This will be at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, that I'll be running this for 5 weeks straight. We're going to go through concepts from the book, but also go deeper in some concepts that go deeper than even are available in the book and the workbook on its own. There will be an online group that you can connect with. We'll have these live sessions via Zoom or maybe Google Meet. You'll be able to expand your network, connect with new people. But the whole goal here is I want to transform your approach to how you think about personal and career development in this process. And there'll be, again, exclusive tools and resources that are not found in the book that you'll get access to. And this will be really fun. And this is probably the only time I'll run this program live, because after this, I'll probably pre-record it and have it as a pre-recorded experience. This is probably the only time that I'll run this experience live like this. And so even just this program is probably at least a $2,000 value alone. Now, I've worked with people in a bunch of different companies, well-known companies, huge companies like some of the ones you see here, and many others. Okay, and all who are trying to move inside and outside and across some other opportunities. And so if you're serious about wanting to move your career level, right, then this is an opportunity for you. You have a choice. It's kind of like, back to some basic physics, one of Newton's laws of motion. If you're an object at rest, you'll stay at rest unless you're acted upon by an outside force. So if you're feeling at rest in your career, for one of these situations, right? You can stay at rest, or you can purchase some of these awesome books, get the bonuses, and get some of these outside forces, some of the support that we can give you in a program like this to accelerate your career right now. Okay, so here's all you have to do. You can go to this page, and I'll throw it into the chat in just a moment as well. www.theintentionalengineer.com/bulk bonus, and choose, the level of bonuses and number of books that you want to buy. Purchase the books on Amazon. Then there's a form on that page that it links to that you can submit your proof of purchase, and then me and my team will send you the bonuses. Okay, so it's that simple. You just buy it, grab your receipt, put the picture of that receipt into the form, and we'll get things to you within a few days. Especially those who are interested in redoing the 25 or more books and get access to the online program together. That's important to do that as soon as possible. Okay. So remember, you'll get all these different things potentially, the online program live, PDF guides and templates that you can get access to. We'll have weekly group coaching and training, an online community. You get email support from me. If you buy 50 or more books, you get some one-on-one coaching with me, access to my network of people I can maybe connect you to, and the personal development video playlist, and so much more if you go to this this link and get the information and join us. I ran some of the data on some of the people I worked with. They were able to upgrade their career 40% faster than average. Some people have increased wages by 20%, up to doubling their income over the course of time. And obviously, if they went from zero to something, that's kind of an infinite thing if they were unemployed at the time. But we want to do this all aligned with your career intentions. So if you watched this and been here with me, you want to transform your career, something you need help with, then take advantage of this, get the content, bonuses, books, and the support that we have, because we want to do what works, not what doesn't. You want to get training and support, even if it isn't from me, but invite you to persevere and keep moving towards who you want to become. So want to have some time for Q&A. I'll share those links here in just a moment. Let's see if I can. Yeah, here we go. There, and I'll get you now. On the side where it says schedule a call, if you're just trying to get more information on these bonuses as I've outlined them here and are on that page, then just send me an email, jeff@jeff-perry.com. But for those who want to consider some of my deeper one-on-one coaching programs that I do, then or some of the corporate programs that I do, then we can schedule a call and talk about that. But if you're just trying to ask questions about what do you get, what's this intentional engineer program going to look like, then just send me an email and we'll talk about that. Okay, so but I want to make that available if you really want to go even deeper, or maybe talk about something custom beyond just some of these bonuses, then we can have a conversation about that. But I want to have some time for Q&A. Anything goes. Don't be shy. What questions you have, you can either unmute or put it into the chat here. Want to spend any time that we need to answer questions that you have that might be helpful. So how can I help here? We covered a lot of ground, and we can talk about any of the concepts we were talking about earlier, or certainly if you have questions about the bonuses and the things that we might be doing there. Don't be shy. How can I be helpful? All right. I'm not going to force you to ask questions, but this is an opportunity you don't normally get. So, okay. Arjun had a question there. Arjun, you want to unmute and share a little bit more info there on why you're trying to figure out if this is applicable for you?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I guess I'm kind of in a stage of like I mentioned before, I'm in level 1 of my job search, but I'm also in an area where I'm not sure how to balance intentionality with just pragmatism, I guess, in
Yeah.
one sense.
Yeah.
And so how do you deal with those in terms of your like your approach?
Yeah. So obviously you have to balance that to a degree. And I get really I get really pragmatic in some of the things we need to do in some of my other programs, like my Engineering Career Accelerator program, which you get access to if you bought 50 or more books. And some of the other things around what do we need to do with the pragmatic stuff, like how do we stand out with our resume and LinkedIn and networking and job interviews and stuff like that. And the intentional engineer stuff, we just go a lot more deeper and really solidify some of the foundational pieces that are actually going to help you with the pragmatic stuff and be a lot more angled to do that well. So yeah, it's a little bit of a balance, and I recognize that, and so I help people with that stuff too. If you got a question, you can send me an email if you're trying to figure out what's the right direction or program to work on for you. You can send me a note and we can perhaps talk more about that. Okay. Yeah. So I want to point you in the direction that's right for you in your current situation. So if you can share a little bit more details, then yeah, just send me an email. Okay.
That makes sense. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions we can help with here? Okay, everyone. So I just want to thank you again for being here. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and hope to see some of you at least in the online program, and reach out if you have any other questions. Okay, so have a great one, and we'll talk to you again soon. Cheers.